everyone. It is another Thursday. Today is Thursday, April 24th, 2025. And it's so nice to have all of you on again for another episode of Transformation Talk. As you all know, this month we've been talking about financial literacy. And I'm Dr. Eugenia Caternor. I'm going to be your host for today. And we do have a guest speaker among us today. So I can't wait to introduce him and hear what he has to share with us today. But as you all know, we've been doing really well this month. And thank you to all of you that have reached out to me, sent me messages about how this episode has been helping you, especially to make better financial choices. And I'm hoping that by the time we finish today's episode, it will bring everything together and our future will be bright. Our finances will be well managed and also we'll make better choices in our finances. So I'm not going to waste too much time before we start. I just want to let you know this is Transformation Talk and we are here to empower each other, to lift each other up, to empower, to inspire, to learn from one another. So if you are here and you have any good knowledge or information you want to share with us, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can always reach us on my website, www.dreugeniacaternor.net. You can follow us on YouTube, Dr. Eugenia Caternor, or Transformation Talk. We are also on Instagram and Facebook if you need to follow us. And if you need to reach us, is 443-623-6080. You can send us an email, dreugeniacaternor@gmail.com. So there are so many ways to reach us. You can call us, you can text us on WhatsApp or regular text. If you have any questions, if you want to participate, if you want to be a guest speaker, please feel free to reach us. So everything that we've been talking this month is all about our finances and how we can make better choices. And as I told you the last few weeks, I've made a lot of mistakes in the past and I've learned the hard way. And I pray that we will not make the same mistakes in our finances. And I'm here to also announce to you that I am a licensed financial advisor and I've learned so much on how to manage my finances as individual and also as a business owner. So there's a lot of things that we can learn from today's presentation. So please, if your thing is not on mute, please mute yourself. And after our speaker finished talking, he'll give you a chance to ask questions. So please kindly mute yourself. So today our guest speaker is Mr. Chidi Onuba, and he is also an investment and financial advisor. He is actually one of my colleagues, one of my mentors, and he has been in this industry for a long time. So he have all the best information as he gives us the solid foundation to continue with our finances, because everything that we've learned is like the ingredients that we need. We have all the tools, we have the building materials. Now we need to start the building. So we need to have a solid foundation. And that's what our guest speaker is going to share with us today, giving us the solid foundation so we can build our financial house on it. So no matter how you want your house to be like, we need to build a solid foundation. So with no much ado, I will say welcome, welcome, and welcome, Mr. Chidi, and we are so glad to have you on today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Eugenia. I am so honored to be here. It's really a privilege. Anytime I get a chance to educate the public, it's part of our overall mission to educate 30 million families by 2030, because we believe a well-informed consumer is the best kind of consumer. All right. My name is Chidi Onuba. I'm a licensed investment advisor with Transamerica Financial Advisors. I've been in financial services for over a decade now, right? Going over 15 years, educating families. So today, one of the things that I'm going to get a chance to do is give you basic principles. I understand that you've learned a lot about debt. I learned a lot about, funding, and learned a lot about investment. But now I would educate almost from the perspective of an architect, helping you to now know where these things go and where to place these products and knowledge that you have learned. Okay, so I'm gonna start the conversation by sharing my screen. All right, and hopefully you see my screen. For starters, like I said, my name is Chidi Onuba. I'm a licensed investment advisor representative working out of Houston, Texas. Right, we believe if you have smart decisions, smart goals, right? I love what I do. With that education, I'm able to help families with their investment strategies, retirement strategies, business strategies, legacy strategies, insurance strategies, and even longevity strategies. But today, my focus will be on the education. So, as an organization, we believe that everyone deserves an opportunity to learn about the basic principles of building a solid financial foundation, your solid financial house from the ground up. It's important to know what the challenges that we will be facing while we go through this journey are. And some of the challenges that we see is that the average person out there makes financial decisions without a budget, right? They have no goals, they spend a lot, right? We live in a country where how they say it, they say we keeping up with the Joneses. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't even like, right? We don't plan for emergencies. The average person out there working is living paycheck to paycheck. They're one paycheck away from financial ruins or being in deficit. We have a habit of increasing debt. I have a background that goes back to Nigeria. I came to this country about 20 years ago. And when I lived in Nigeria, it was understood that no debt is good debt. You owe nobody, you have good credit, right? You come to a great America and you have to owe somebody to have good credit. So when I went to buy stuff, people would tell me, Chidi, you don't have bad credit, you have no credit. So what does that mean? You need to go get in debt so that we can establish a credit for you. But the biggest concern is that the average person out there is not even interested in their future. So because you are here today, you should be very proud of yourself because you are working on your future. Here's what the facts are. We will live long, whether you like it or not. The average life expectancy on average in 2023 is 81 years. And by the time we get to 2030, the average life expectancy will be about 83 years. So what does that mean? It means that from the time people retire at age 62 or 65, right, they have another 17, 18 years of life left to live, which will require resources. And if you look at the world today, in an aging world, what is consistent is low birth rate. Matter of fact, if you've been watching the news lately, what is the thing that they're talking about? Even the US is trying to incentivize people to have more babies because this new generation and subsequent Gen Z, Gen X, they're not having as many kids. We find that there are more single parents, increasing health concerns. So ultimately, with low birth rates, single parenthood, increasing health concern, one of the biggest challenges that people will face is proper housing and supervision in their elderly years, right? Transportation and mobility. How are we going to get from point A to point B in those later years? Wealth transfer, health directives. We'll be looking at some of the biggest movement of money from one generation to another, right? What strategies are we implementing? Are we going to have to make sure that all the money we've worked very hard for, goes to our next generation the way we want it? You know, financial security today is one of the biggest challenges people talk about. Social security, right? Or social security, like they like to call it, right? Or self-security. We believe that self-security, by understanding concepts around savings, taxes, self-security, as opposed to social security and employer security, is the way to go. So the million-dollar question while we're having this conversation to bring it all in is, are you too busy during the first half of your life working to prepare for the second half of your life? You know, I find it so amazing that people are always so busy. Whenever it comes to talking about their finances or their future, they're always so busy. But when they invite them to a baby shower, a wedding, a party, a gathering, a get-together, a barbecue, they make out all the time in the world for this. So these are some of the challenges that we see, and that's why we believe that an educated consumer will be the person in the best situation to take care of their family. Now, with all the products you learned, or all the products that are out there, it's important to understand that those are just means to an end. The bottom line is you need to understand what you're supposed to have in your foundation. When it comes to building your financial foundation, you have to build it from the ground up. And it starts with proper protection. What are you protecting? You're protecting your ability to generate income. You're protecting the assets that you already have. You're protecting your family, and you're protecting yourself from lawsuits and predatory tactics. So when it comes to your foundation, it is very critical to make sure that you have the right amount of protection, be with life insurance, your long-term insurance, your disability insurance, your health insurance. These are all things that foundationally help you protect those things I talked about. The next step is your debt management. You want to manage your debt, right? Because it's so easy to get into debt, but somehow, some way, it's harder to get out. You want to prepare for an emergency, right? I live in Texas. June, July is coming around, hurricane season. So roof blows off. What do we have, right, to take care of those challenges? Your engine goes out. And lastly, you want to make sure you invest. So what is the rule of thumb? The rule of thumb is, when it comes to your protection, you want to make sure you have at least 10 times your income in protection. Example, if I make $75,000 a year, I need to have about $750,000 in insurance, in life insurance, to make sure that I protect my assets, my income, and my liabilities. So having life insurance alone is not enough. You want to make sure that you have the right type and the right amount. When it comes to your debt, as close to zero as possible. When it comes to your emergency fund, you want to have 6 months of your income set aside in a place that is liquid you can access. And when it comes to your investment, you want to have 20 times your income to help you replace your lifestyle and create self-security. We believe that without a strong financial foundation, your financial house won't stand. So if you focus all your energy on investment, guess what? And you don't plan for these other things, when any challenge happens, you're going to find out that you're going to have to go pull from those investments, right? To take care of that, to take care of those challenges. Example, has anybody ever had to pull out money from their retirement portfolio, maybe to help send their kid to college? Happens all the time. And then their retirement suffers. Has anybody ever gone into their savings portfolio to pull money out because they had to take care of an emergency? So without the right foundation, most people's houses will not stand, right? It may look pretty, it may sound pretty, but you need the foundation to stand. And see, ultimately, we are almost all the same, because we have a wealth curve we at least we have an aspiration to build wealth. And ultimately, we have a responsibility curve. The goal is to reduce your responsibilities. So in the early years of our lives, so if you're 30, 35, maybe 29, or under 40 years old, or maybe under 50 years old, you are in the first half of your life. In this half of your life, you have kids, you have a mortgage, you have bills, you have debt. So you have a less secure financial structure. Why? Because if anything were to happen to you, your 6-year-old cannot go replace your income. Your 12-year-old cannot go replace your income. You have to have something in place to protect the early half of your life. And then over time, as you reduce your responsibilities, you want to make sure you protect your future, your retirement phase, your nest egg phase. Because at that point, your kids may be grown and out of your house. Your home may be paid off. Well, guess what? Are you self-secured? Self-security. So it's important to learn to apply the 10-20 rule, 10 times your income to protect your responsibilities and your family in the less secure phase of your life, in the first early half of your life, and 20 times your income to protect for the second half of your life. The wealth formula says you need to save money. You need time for that money to grow. You need a strong rate of return that outpaces inflation. And you need to understand how taxes affect your wealth. If you can do the first 3 right and reduce the second 2, you will build some form of wealth or some form of self-security. Okay? You want to make sure you get rid of debt. Hey, if you ever heard of the debt snowball method, right? Where the average person has maybe a debt profile like this. And you find an extra $100 and strategically roll it up. You find out that you can save yourself. What would have taken you 30 years to become debt-free will now take you 17 years to become debt-free. And on top of that, you have a 12-year buyback of your self-security portfolio. So it's important that you understand how debt works. You want to understand compound interest. The rule of 72, probably one of the best concepts that if you understand it, can work for you. But if you don't understand it, can work against you. Rule of 72 simply says you take the number 72 and you divide it by whatever interest rate you are receiving or paying. It will tell you how long it takes for that money to double. So if I had $10,000 and I wanted to know, how long will it take my $10,000 to become $20,000? And I place that $10,000 in a place giving me 1% interest. All I have to do is I take the number 72 divided by 1. It would take my $10,000 72 years to become $20,000. $1 million question is, how many 72 years do we have in our lives, right? If you're lucky, 1. So here's a quick example. Let's say I had the $10,000 and I said, you know what? I'm going to save for the next 20 years. And I find a portfolio that gives me 6%. That means my money doubles every 12 years. 12 years later, my 10,000 grows to about 20. 36 years later, my 10,000 would have grown to about 81,472. Did my money grow? Absolutely. But 36 years from now, what is the real value of 81,000 when it comes to your purchasing power? So what if I got 8%? Rule of 72, once again, every 9 years, my money doubled. So 36 years later, I have about 159,000. What if I get 10%? Now my money doubles every 7.5 years. With the same 10,000 after 36 years, I'm sitting at 309,000. You see, what I find very interesting is that many people do things right. They save money. They put time to it. But the biggest challenge they have is they may not even think to pay attention to interest rates. Because this simple concept is the difference between having 814,000 in your retirement portfolio or 3 million in your retirement portfolio, just by a simple concept like this. A mere 2% is the difference between 1.59 million in your portfolio and $3 million in your portfolio. Which brings me to the second half of it. Remember I said, those who understand it earn it. Those who don't understand it end up paying it to somebody. The same rule applies when I go to the bank and take a credit card and they charge me 24% on my credit card and I run up a balance of $10,000. Now, every 3 years, I will be paying the bank $20,000 on the $10,000 debt. So understanding this could be, and understanding why you need to get out of debt sooner could be the difference between having the portfolio you want or the portfolio you have today. Okay? It's important to understand the effect of taxes and inflation and the real rate of return. Many times I see people get so fixated on the growth, but they don't get fixated on taxes and inflation. The number one thing any wealthy person, if you ever talk to a wealthy person and ask them, what is the biggest thing you look out for when you plan for your finances? They're going to tell you, 1, taxes, right? And 2, am I outpacing inflation? And is my principal safe? So these are the real returns you want to always look out for. I learned really quickly to build good habits. Building wealth is a matter of good habits. The first rule of thumb when it comes to building good habits is to have a budget. The second thing is pay yourself first. In this country, I joke with my clients when I say, hey, you got to treat yourself the way IRS treats you. And they say, how does IRS treat me? Well, before you get your paycheck, who gets paid first? The IRS, right? They take it out and then they give you what's left. Why? Because they know that if they gave us everything, at the end of the year when they come to collect, we're all going to have stories for them. We're all going to have emergencies. We're all going to have some challenges. So they take it out first. You got to treat yourself the same way. Example, it's rule of thumb, if you want to maintain the lifestyle you have today, to save about 10% of your income. If you want to maintain a better lifestyle in retirement, about 20% of your income. Another way to calculate this, the first hour you work at your job should belong to you. And then the rest of the hours belong to the bills, to the kids, to the everything else. So, assuming a man making $60,000 a year, setting aside 10% of his income, that's about $500 a month or $17 a day. That's the cost of Starbucks, right? If you drink Starbucks once a day and maybe eat Chick-fil-A, right, you would run up $17 pretty quickly. But when you consider time and compound interest, like we just learned in the previous conversation, over 30 years, if he consistently saved $500 a month, understanding compound interest at 8%, after 30 years, he'll be sitting at a portfolio of almost $745,000. If he got 10%, he will be sitting at $1.13 million. So, as you can see, building wealth or building a nest egg, $1 million nest egg, doesn't require being a genius. It just requires discipline, budgeting. Discipline and budgeting, and you can make it happen. Why must you pay attention to inflation? Because the rise of cost of living is going up every day. In the 1970s, the average home was $23,400. I don't care what part of the United States you live. Even in the poorest state, you are not going to find a house brand new or newly built or maybe even old for $23,400. A gallon of gas was 36 cents. A loaf of bread was 25 cents. The average wages was about $9,350. If you look at the wages as a ratio of the cost of a home, it was almost 1:4. By the time you got to the 90s, the average cost of a home jumped to about $123,000. The wages grew, but inflation, $28,970 in relation to the other expenses, grew at a rate of 1:8. So your purchasing power was less over time in the 90s. Fast forward to today. The average home is about 535,800 when you take the United States as a whole. The average income is $65,000. So when you take that as a ratio, you're looking at 1:9. That's why many families see themselves working harder and harder and harder, but cannot seem to get ahead the way our grandparents or people who lived in the 60s and 70s were able to do. So you have to understand inflation. It's not just good enough to save and learn about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and ETFs and UITs and Bitcoin and all these things. If you don't pay attention to inflation, you may not be tracking properly. So here are the numbers. Every $100 you have today, 5 years from now will be worth $86. You need about $116 to buy the same things $100 could buy today. When you look at a 10-year outlook, the value will be about $74. You would need about $134 to buy the same thing you have today. And when you fast forward 20 years from now, your $100 will be worth about $55. You would need about $118 to buy the same thing that your $100 could buy today. Another way to look at it is, if I make $100,000 a year today, 20 years from now, I need to be making about $181,000 to maintain the lifestyle that you have today. So it's important that we pay attention to inflation. These are the silent killers of people's money and finances. Just by the numbers, a retiree today who lives on $4,000 a month would need $7,224 20 years from now to have the exact same lifestyle they have today at $4,000 a month. So it's critical that inflation is something that you're working hard to outpace. You may not be able to control it, but you can definitely have the prerequisite knowledge to outpace it. Okay? You want to learn about taxes, how taxes are implemented in this country. Where you put your money has a direct relationship to how it's going to be treated from a tax perspective, how IRS sees it. So everybody's so quick to look at products, wants to learn about the Dow Jones and every day, Chidi, what's the best stock? What's the best investment? It's not nearly as important that where are you building this foundation from? Where are you building this investment out of, right? Just like we all know, it's not just enough to buy any car. You want to buy a car that is suitable for your family. It's not just enough to buy any home. You want to buy a home that's affordable and is suitable for what you need it for. So when it comes to taxes, you have to understand the tax consequences of your money. In this country, there are three tax buckets that your money could fall under. One, tax now. What does tax now mean? You put after-tax dollars in it. You grow every year as you make gains. You have to reconcile the capital gains taxes. You have tax later. You put pre-tax dollars in it. You grow it tax deferred. But when it's time to pool the nest egg, you reconcile the taxes as ordinary income. The IRS sees it like you just went to work that year and generated income because they will be taxing you on what you pool as ordinary income. And then you have your tax advantages, right? Where it's structured right. You put after-tax dollars in it, grow tax deferred, and then you can access that money tax exempt. So where you're building your money is important. Why you need to diversify is important, right? So let's say a guy who's interested in stocks. Hey, what are some of the things I could quickly tell about that guy? He's somebody who understands that he needs to get more returns to outpace inflation. However, it also tells me that if he's thinking of a long term, it tells me that he may not fully understand the tax consequences. What about the person who's building all their retirement portfolio in a 401k? I understand that it tells me that, you know what, this man or woman understands that the concept of a match. They understand the concept of growing money to potentially outpace inflation. They understand the concept of risk. And I expect that they know that when it's time to pool their resources, they will be reconciling income tax. And the guy who's in tax advantage understands that, hey, I want to pay my taxes today and grow my money for the future and maybe not have to deal with that later. So the $1 million question I always get is, well, Chidi, what's the best one? There is no best one. There is, what do you believe? What do you believe works best for you? If you believe that taxes will go up in the future, maybe tax advantage strategies may play an important role in building your nest egg. If you believe that taxes will come down in the future, maybe the tax later strategies will play a role in building your nest egg. So I recommend that everyone should always think about the tax consequence of where their money is going and maybe find out if there are ways to do the same things in more tax advantage or tax deferred ways. See, knowing the tax impact of the money is important to building your financial future. And lastly, you have to run your finances through what we call a litmus test. Let it grow. Make sure it has enough growth to outpace taxes and inflation. You want to make sure that there's safety on your money to manage the risk and preserve your principal. You know, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. It's a real thing, right? The return of my money is more important than the return on my money for many families out there. Tax advantages. You have to start making sure that tax deferred and tax advantage vehicles are implementable in your savings, right? Because they could play a significant role in your wealth building. And protection. You want to make sure you have the right protection on your income, your assets, preparing for long-term care, disability, and chronic illness. When investing and saving, you want to consider these important factors. You see, when building a house, you need to make sure that all aspects of the house, the foundation, the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, are working together. This also applies when building your financial future. When you're planning for your retirement, for living longer, for protecting your risk, your estate transfer, taxes, your assets, your budget, your liabilities, your kids' college education. You don't want to be the guy who is always juggling their finances. You want to be the guy building with confidence from the ground up, knowing exactly where each piece is supposed to go to help you build a solid financial foundation. Always good recommendation to always do a financial checkup. You know, we go to the dentist a couple times in our lifetime, right, to do a dental check. We see our doctor, it's supposed to be once or twice a year. I know many men, once every 6 years, after their wife has harassed them, right? But in this case, right, we recommend that you always do a financial checkup and make sure you're addressing your concerns: too many bills, lack of savings, your children's future, healthcare, wealth transfer, stability in your income, lack of financial knowledge. These are all things that you will be able to deduce once you go through a frequent checkup. And definitely, we offer this on a complimentary basis. You know, I love this checkups because it forces my client to do one of two things. One, they either say, well, I'm spending too much money, I got to save more, I got to cut back on my expenses. But two, if they're living barely at their means and they have done everything and there's no more wiggle room, it helps them understand that they need to make more money. You know, think of it like a business. A business only works with two things. If they want to increase profits, what do? They cut back expenses, right? And they try to raise more money. So you have to apply the same concept almost in your finances and know the timeline or the timeline for your planning. Less than a year, 1 to 5 years, 5 years or more, because different vehicles will be best suited to help you hit those goals once you understand the timeline, right? Hey, remember, with your current situation, you got to ask yourself, will I reach my goals with the way my financial house is structured? And if the answer is no, hey, you have to figure out a way to have part-time income. And also, you want to make sure you have multiple sources of income. So, in conclusion, I just want to show you why it's important to plan for longevity. So, let's take a state like Texas. I live in Texas. And we want to know the cost of care in retirement in the state of Texas, assuming a 40-hour week of care. This is the average cost. Informal care is about $67,000 a year. Today, 2025, home care is about $55,000. Assisted living is about $60,000. Nursing home care is about $69,000, almost 70 grand. Is the nest egg you're building or you have, is it going to be enough to withstand these type of costs? Oh, by the way, that is today. Remember when I talked about inflation? Imagine if you were 40 years old today and 30 years from now, you'll be 70. What will be the cost? The inflation adjusted cost will be anywhere from $100,000 to $224,000 for longevity planning, for long-term care planning. So it is important that we know these numbers, we know our numbers, and we evaluate where we are today and what we need to do for tomorrow. The second thing, I always make sure I talk to people, I want you to understand today, is knowing your number. You know, I find it interesting that when we buy a home, we know exactly what our mortgage amount is, the property tax, the homeowner's insurance. If you live in a place that's a flood zone, how much is going to cost you for flood insurance? We know all that, and they call it our escrow. When we buy a car, we know exactly what our car note is going to be. But when it comes to our future, our retirement, our kids' college, we don't ever really know what number I'm supposed to be putting away. So here's a nugget of all those things I talked about on the wealth formula in action. Assuming I wanted to generate $1 million by the time I'm age 65, starting from zero today, and I found a place that gave me 80%, and I happen to be a 40-year-old. So 25 years from now, I'll be 65. So I know how much my goal is. I know what interest I can shoot for, and I understand my timeline. And I want to know, how much do I need to save? Well, you see, regardless of product, if you saved about $1,044.54 monthly, you have a chance to hit that $1 million goal. Now, what if I had less time? The importance of time. What if I didn't have 15 years? What if I'm 50 years old trying to retire at 65 with nothing today? Then I need to save more, about $2,870 to have the same $1 million. What's the message here? Time is very, very important. The more time you have, the less money you need. The less time you have, the more money you need. Does that make sense? Now, assuming you had an initial balance of, let's say, 100,000, then you would need less. So I hope that the concept and the discipline and the commitment to always budget and discipline and save money has been something that you've been working on even before you got here for this conversation, right? So, last thing I wanted to share. As a financial advisor and professional, our organization truly, truly believes in financial literacy. We are one of the only people, if not the only organization, that runs day in, day out during the week, 3 times a day financial classes on how to build better savings and wealth, how to increase your cash flow and reduce and manage your debt, how to understand the right amount and prepare for proper protection, the relationship between your health and wealth, how to accumulate assets using the right strategies, fulfilling long-term care goals, making sure that your nest egg will last your longevity timeline, optimizing Social Security, and working on how to utilize some of these products and strategies and solutions that are out there. Okay, so I'm going to close out with this and I'm going to take questions. I think that if you are out there and you have a desire, I want you to know that there is a platform to educate you and also give you access and work on a strategy with you and help you with access to over 300 product providers. That's why we focus on education, right? As an investment advisor, once again, I am fully licensed in more than 10 states, right? And I believe that if you understand the concept, you can make smarter decisions and have smarter goals, right? You can build with confidence. And lastly, you can consult with us so we can help you on strategies around retirement. If you own a business, strategies to maximize the business leverage, investment strategies, estate strategies, proper protection strategies, and longevity strategies. So with that, I will open the floor up for questions. And I could answer some of the questions. First of all, I would like to hear your comment. Was these basic financial principles helpful to help you understand what you need to be building over time? So you can put it in the chat if you would like, okay? And I will take questions. Over back to you, Dr. Eugenia, as we wait for questions. No questions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chindu, for all the knowledge that you've shared with us today. So we'll just open the floor if anybody have a question or have a story they would like to share, an experience they've had, anything. We're here to share information. We're here to listen and learn from each other. So if you have anything to share, please don't be shy. You can go ahead. Wow, it's a very quiet group today.
Maybe they're still stunned by the information.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you for such a powerful presentation. Thank you.
So,
Nothing? Okay.
all right. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me.
Okay, one question. There's one question on there.
Okay. What's the question?
It says, what age is too old to get life insurance?
Depending on the company, you guys can still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. On average, what we find is that most companies cut off at age 85 for their coverage. Okay, they say they're not able to unmute.
Sabina, can you please unmute everybody?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes. So the cutoff age for most companies is 85. Okay. But when it comes to purchasing insurance, there are other factors other than just age. Age is one of them. your health status is one of them, right? Your lifestyle is another. Okay, so you can still be young, um, or you know, and not qualify. So it would boil down to the underwriter and underwriting the case for you. But purely to answer the question, the oldest age, the cutoff age for majority of the insurance companies out there is age 85.
So for me to add to that question, does it cost more as you get older?
Yes. I joke with people when I say the cost of insurance goes based on the rule of age, right? Or the rule of God. The closer you are to seeing God, the more expensive it is for you, right? So a 20-year-old would always be cheaper than a 30-year-old. A 30-year-old will be cheaper than a 40-year-old. A 40-year-old will be cheaper than a 50, and so on and so forth, right? Because the risk of dying on the mortality table, right, is more as you get older. So yes, it costs more as you get older, for sure.
Thank you. And there's another question. Term and life insurance. When is what's recommendations for above 58 years old?
Okay, so when it
I'm
comes
wondering if between term and whole life insurance.
yeah, maybe that's the question, but I'm going to answer the question as if that's the question. For me, it's always about suitability and affordability and understanding what each vehicle does. Okay, so it's not nearly as much as a recommendation as much as understanding how the product works and then what you can afford. A term is usually cheaper, but it's also temporary. So with the terms, you have to die within the term window. So if I buy a term policy at 48 and I bought a 30-year term, it means that if after 78, if I haven't died, I would have lost some of those funds. Now, you may try to get a renewal, but remember what we talked about age? Now you're renewing at 30 years older. A permanent contract, right, will be more expensive, but in most cases, it has a cash value potential. So it's not A is better than B more so than it is what is your intention for it. Now, also the permanent plans usually have more meaningful benefits such as long-term care, right? And critical illness. Term policies have chronic and maybe critical illness. So it really boils down to what you can afford and what's suitable for you. And you can always blend it. The key metrics you want to be tracking here is, am I covered 10 times my income? That's what is more important in the conversation, not merely an argument between term versus whole life versus IUL versus VUL. What's more important is first things first. What is 10 times my income? Okay, what can I afford or budget towards providing 10 times my income? And then from that standpoint, we can now deduce, well, maybe a term will be a better strategy from a cost perspective, or a permanent because you can afford it, or maybe a hybrid, a blend of a term and a permanent strategy might work just as effectively. But ideally, the number and the more important question that needs to be written down or talked about is 10 times your income.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yes, it was a lot of information. Thank you so much. But say there's somebody that just has no idea what to do whatsoever, right? What is the best advice that you can give, like to at least start?
Okay, the best advice, if you're asking me, I would say the best advice is to schedule a one-on-one with me, and we could go over your goals, right? Look at your numbers, look at what it takes to fill those gaps in. But in general, you want to start with a budget. You want to start with a budget and your lifestyle, the cost of your lifestyle, so that first of all you can find gaps where maybe you're wasting money, you're paying too much in bills that on things that you don't need. So first things first, you want to have a budget. You can do it on one-on-one basis, or there are some apps that even allow you to manage your budget and your expenses. Then the second thing you want to make sure you do after budgeting is to have a goal and a plan, because without a goal, then you don't have a target. And once you establish that target, then phase 3 would be implementation and strategy sessions, right? You want to now strategize on which will be the most suitable and affordable way to get to your goals, and then implement, and working with the foundation in mind. So if you absolutely had nothing, the first thing I would say is the base of the foundation, proper protection. You got to protect the goose that lays the golden egg. So you got to have enough protection to make sure that something were to happen to you, your family is protected. If you got sick, your income is protected. And then with that foundation in mind, you start building the rest up all the way to your investment phase.
Thank you very much. So maybe investing in a house should be like phase 3.
It's when it comes to investing in a house, it's not between a house and your retirement. It's more between a house and renting an apartment, right? So if you are renting an apartment, it's a cost that is an expense that most of us have to bear, either through renting or through ownership, right? So you still, like I said, want to be able to sit down and know what will make more sense for me. And that's why I still believe that a one-on-one consultation will probably be the most effective way to come up with the best solution for you. It's interesting to me that when people get sick, they go seek a doctor, right? When people need medication, they go to a pharmacist. When their car breaks down, they go to a mechanic. But when it comes to their finances, they don't want to go to anybody. They want to just tell me, I'll figure it out. And it's usually as a result of maybe a trust issue with your money. But it's important to know that we work with the highest level of integrity, and we are highly regulated through compliance. So I would recommend that you start with a consultation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, hi, Mr. Chinedu.
Yes.
Yeah, well presented. I actually appreciate, and I got like an insight with your presentation. But on the other hand, I heard you talking about one-on-one consultations as well. I love the way you stated it. But that being said, at times asking question in a group like how we're asking right now, is just for one another to put in their own input and also to educate us the more, and I know then from there the one-on-one presentation as well consultation can be implemented too. All right, that being said, I don't know if that will I don't want to say I don't want to continue to ask my question, but I still have the bonus as such to
go ahead, please.
yeah.
The only question that is not good is the one you don't ask.
Okay. Yeah. So I have a question in regards to the business. I was just looking at your last slide that
I share.
yeah, that you shared shows the different portion of And I wanted to ask a question on that financial business financial I don't know if you
Let me share. Let me pull up the slide again so that
yeah,
I can.
yeah, you can pull up the slide.
Oh, which this one or?
No, the last slide, it was like a table form.
Oh, okay, like this one.
Yes, exactly. This is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. When you spoke about business strategies, small business owners,
Yes.
financial and insurance options for themselves and their employee. And yeah, so I just had a question about, like, if you can just explain a little bit about this.
Awesome.
Also, like, related to the 401k, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
As a business owner, unlike an employee who has the uh, the company taking care of maybe a 401k or getting a insurance through the business or something like that. Most small business owners are their own employer, right? They're their own employer and they have employees. So we were able to work with them, maybe setting up a SEP IRA, 401k, a simple IRA, or maybe other business strategies that the business could provide them their retirement portfolio or insurance portfolio, and it's a deduction or a business expense that can be written off by the business, depending on how they are structured. So to answer your question, when it comes to business strategies, we work with businesses, first of all, to look at the structure of their business, if there are opportunities to set up retirement portfolios, financial portfolios, investment portfolios, and be able to write it off as a business expense for the benefit of the business, right? And to maximize their returns as a business owner and provide some kind of security. And also, we also look at business transfer. You know, many people are not able to properly structure their business to be able to transfer it properly from one generation to another. So it would die with the generation that created it. So we also work on strategies to make sure that that transition is easier for them. So business succession strategies also. I don't know if that touched on your question, but we do everything from a 401k perspective, simple, a SEP IRA, straight investment strategies to business solutions, right? That businesses can use for the benefit of them and their employee to retain their best employees and have it as a tax deduction, right? Which is the reason why companies set up 401ks and have things like what they call that thing again? They have golden, it's kind of form of a golden handcuff, vested schedules, right? Because they want to give the employee an incentive, retain the employee, right? But at the same time, create a tax deduction for the business and reduce their tax liability. So these are all things that are well within our purview, but the only way to properly and truly understand what best suits a business owner would be in a meeting to understand their business. But yes, we help in all those areas.
Yeah, so I just want the others to get a little bit about, probably I know they might be aware about it, but that was a really, really, like, interested point for me, and I'm so happy that the licensed somebody is, to explain it to the others, because most of us here have small businesses. Yeah, so that is very, very good point that one can follow with Mr.
You can call me Chidi. All right. Chidadu is my first name. Chidi is my middle name. So everybody calls me Chidi. I
Yeah.
wasn't able to rename myself when I logged into the Zoom. So I just left it as is. I mean, it's insane that everybody, majority of you here are business owners, right? I think as a business, you have a lot of leverage that you may not be using because you are in the realm of job creator. And when you are in the creation business, in the creation part of the US economy, there are a lot of incentive and a lot of concessions given to you as a business owner that you may not be taking advantage of, that we could explore, look at, and see how it could be beneficial to you and your employees, right? We might also be able to look at your structure, maybe the way you have your business structured, given the number of employees you have. If you just restructured, opens up a whole new heap of benefits to you, right? So these are the things that we would be able to look at: structure, goals, what your intention, the vision, the transition strategy, and we work with all these phases to help you make the best or optimize the potential of the business. Okay. All right. Now, you guys have been awesome, I tell you.
Any more questions?
We'll take one more, and then we can you can always reach out to me to ask more questions. I know some people don't like to ask questions, maybe in fear of articulation or making sure they get their question across. But like I said earlier, the only wrong question is the one you don't ask.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Yes.
All right. So you were talking about the the different type of life insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't think I really understood when you were talking about the term and then the mutual fund, the difference between them two.
Okay. Okay. The term and did you say mutual fund, or the term and the mutual fund?
Yes, mutual
Okay.
fund.
Okay, so I think you're talking about, let's go back to the page. I think is this page right around here. Okay, so what a mutual fund is. So a term and a mutual fund are in two different categories of product. A term is in the insurance space. A mutual fund is in the investment space. But just for the understanding, what is a mutual fund? It's a pool of money, right, that is being invested and managed by an investment manager. So here's a good example. If Dr. Eugenia and myself have a friend that we both know, we say we have a mutual friend, correct? So what is a mutual fund? It's a fund, is a fund that many people are able to put money into, maybe because the price of one stock is so expensive, they can't, let's say a stock is $500 and you want to put away $200, right? But so it's not enough to buy that stock, right? So how can I get into the stock or the bond without it costing me the full 500? The best way to go about it is get it through a mutual fund. And what the mutual fund now does is it allows me to put my 200, Dr. Eugenia to put her 2,000, Lee put his 500, somebody else puts their 1,000. And now we have a bigger pool of money. We get a fund manager to manage that money. And he now is able to diversify our money into stocks and bonds and all these things. And at the end of the day, he's able to take a look at the portfolio, right, and give us profit or interest that we made in the ratio of how we contributed in there. So because of that, we all mutually own that fund. So it's called a mutual fund. Does that make sense? So that is mutual fund. But if you were asking about the types of insurance, there are foundationally two types of insurance. There's temporary insurance and there's permanent insurance. Temporary is term. Term is temporary. So what happens is the shorter the term, the cheaper it is. 5-year term, 10-year term, 15-year term, 25-year term, 30-year term. Different companies have different term limits, right? So if I bought a 10-year term for $500,000 and Dr. Eugenia at the same age and she bought the same term, but now she bought a 20-year, it will cost her more because the insurance company has a lot more risk. So term is temporary, is usually cheaper. Now, outside of term, there is permanent. Permanent insurance is supposed to cover you till age 100 or more. The first generation of permanent insurance that came out is something called a whole life. Okay? It covers you for your whole life till age 100. Okay? Now, what happens with the whole life is when you pay your premiums, a portion of those money goes into a savings portfolio so that the insurance company will use that to reconcile the future cost in your later years when the cost has gone up and become more expensive. So that is the basic structure of a whole life. Now, over time, just like everything evolves, right? Imagine a phone from 1920. The whole purpose was to communicate. But now, today, if you look at a smartphone, it does more than communication. You can send text message, you can take pictures, you can check the internet, right? Because of evolution, you've had now plans like an IUL, which that savings portfolio that the whole life typically has is now being invested in through indexed accounts. Or you have things like the VUL, which you're able to now invest that money that's saved in the stock market. And the goal of doing that is to grow that savings big enough to be able to continue paying the cost of the insurance till age 100 or past that. But at the same time, for many people, if they understand how to use it, and for business owners, if they understand how to structure their business to fund it, it could be an excellent tax-free retirement, alternate retirement strategy that also provides them permanent or lifetime insurance. All right. So when it comes to insurance, there are two kinds. There's the term and there's the permanent. And under the permanent, there are different variations from a whole life to a UL to an IUL to a VUL. We service and we help people with all of them. So there's no one that we shy away from or having a conversation or helping you understand. It'll be more to, work with you on what you're thinking about, what you're trying to do, and we could support that. Now, in the case of the mutual fund, that's if you want to get into the realm of investment. That will be the case of mutual fund, right? And we could talk about what fund portfolio works best for you. Matter of fact, maybe if I have 2 more seconds or 2 more minutes, I may be able to show the example of a mutual fund. Okay.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So this will be an example of a mutual fund. Somebody else is sharing their screen for the scan. Okay. All right.
No, you're good.
Okay. So this will be an example of a mutual fund. So you can see this is a Fidelity portfolio. Inside of this are different funds, right? In different asset classes and different sectors. So if I want to build out my fund with technology sector, right, I'll be able to see what funds are in technology. If I want to build in domestic equity, it will be able to show me what's in there. But ultimately, if you look at a fund, right, if you look at a fund, it would maybe show you what's in there. So if I open this, so remember when I said we have a fund manager, these are the people that manage this fund. Fidelity Advisor Asset Managed Class A is managed by this fund. It will be able to tell you where they typically invest, mostly bonds, right? Right now, bonds are doing better than stocks because of the tariffs, right? It talks about their performance. It gives you their highs and lows. And if you click into it, if you look into it, it helps you break down where most of their investment comes from, right? So this is what a mutual fund will look like. Okay. If you were looking at some more aggressive funds, right now bonds will be stronger because of the market. But if you go to things like, let's say I'm looking for something that over the last 10 years has done very well. So let's say Capital Development Fund, right? This will be the fund manager. Matt Fura will be the fund manager. He is managing our mutual money, right? And he would have his Q&As and his profile and prospectus. He shows you the performance. In the last year, he's done 10%, 3 years, 12%, 5 years, 20.62, 10 years, 11.7, right? Who is this investment for? People seeking growth of their capital, right? He is more aggressive. He is in either growth stock values or stock on both, right? Normally invested in common stocks. He tells you your risk profile, and you can see he's investing in things like Microsoft, Wells Fargo, GE, Aerospace, Exxon, Nvidia, Boeing, Meta, right? Bank of America, Apple. So when we give him our money, right, he's able to take that with his vast knowledge, go and invest in things in GE. And his goal is to make money for all of us and then share our gains, right? And pool that pool of money. So I hope that answered your question. It might have seemed like a lot, but it really isn't. By the time you have that conversation and that consultation, you'll be able to get clarity, a lot more clarity. I hope that gives some clarity to some other people that are on here. All right.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for all the knowledge that you shared with us today. It's impossible to learn everything in an hour.
Yes.
I mean, you've done a great job. At least you've given us the basic foundation to build our homes on. So if you're on this line and you need more information, you want to start your financial journey, please reach out to Mr. Chidi or reach out to me. There's a barcode, a QR code on the screen or in the chat. You scan it, is to do a financial checkup. And as he said, we always go to the doctors, we go to the dentist, we check our vision. Doing financial checkup, to me, that's the best thing I've learned from this presentation, because for many, many years, and I keep telling you, I did not have a good financial knowledge. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and until I realized where I was going and what I was doing wrong, even though I've heard messages like this, it did not mean anything to me. I kept saying, my first priority is to take off my children, to feed them, to put roof over my head. I kept working. I never saw the money. Every paycheck goes to bills. And I thought that was how life is supposed to be in America. Until tragedy hit me, and that gave me a wake-up call. And even after that, I signed up for life insurance, but I didn't really understand what it meant or what I even signed up for until I did another financial checkup, and I realized lack of financial knowledge was my problem. That's what I was lacking. So I put myself into more learning, watching a lot of YouTube videos, listening to other people that have done financial presentations on YouTube. And finally, I told myself I need to do something more. So I signed up to go through the training so I can also become a licensed financial advisor. So I can not only benefit from that, but also share my knowledge with other people and help many, many, many of our people that are still struggling to make good financial decisions. And you all know I'm a business owner. I have multiple businesses, and I'm always looking for ways to continue to grow my businesses and how to manage those businesses. So the business strategy plan was best for me. Again, I've learned so many ways to diversify my income and manage my finances better in my business area or business portfolio. And that also being said, we did a presentation on how to generate multiple streams of income. Again, you all know me. I love my business. So not only did I learn about financial literacy, not only did I gain the knowledge or to help other people, but also I'm generating income from helping people become better financial beings. So if you're looking for extra stream of income, please reach out to Mr. Chidi, reach out to me. You know my number, 443-623-6080. Text me, email me, Dr. Eugenia Caternor at gmail.com. Go to my website, www.dreugeniacaternor.net. You can follow me on any of the social media handles. You can reach me and tell me, hey, I need help, or I need to learn more about my finances. I need to grow my finances. We are here to help you. We are here to work with you, and we are here to make sure that you're financially sound, not only for your generation, but for generations to come. Leaving the legacy for your children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren is the best gift you can leave for them, because that's something that has been lacking. You don't want to be in a position that when you die, we're not doing GoFundMe to bury you or to fly you back home. Please make your financial life a priority, better than anything else that you can ever think of. Because if you lose everything, but you have good financial plan, trust me, you can move on through the next day. And God have given all of us the wisdom to make better decisions. When you have good financial plan, it will help you in so many areas, even in your service to God, how you help the kingdom, how you do stuff at church. It's going to help you in every area of your life, because money is not the end to the means, but at least it helps you to get to where you need to get to in life. So make sure you're learning something from all this presentation that we've done. Actually, it's been 5 weeks. So if you didn't learn anything and you're not making any changes, please see me or see Mr. Chidi, and we will help you to see where you need to start and how to make good decisions for yourself and your family. Please scan the barcode or QR code in the chat and just fill that quick form. It will come to us and we can reach out to you to talk more about your needs and how we can help you. So that being said, I think we've utilized the time very well, and we're going to come to the end of our financial literacy episodes. We will bring you more topics. If you have any topic that you want to learn more about, please don't hesitate to text me, email me, call me, and we can talk about. So thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to all my team that have made this day or this program possible. God bless you, and as always, don't be just hearers, but be doers of the word. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Right.
And
Thank
thank you, Mr.
you.
Chidi. You're
My
welcome.
pleasure. My pleasure. Great engagement, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.